how it's going to be opened up and what that's going to look like when, as far as opening up to the rest of the world. The Tesla charging network is, in my opinion, the biggest whole moat, or whatever you want to call it, that Elon Musk has. It is a really big advantage because it works. We have, in the 3 years we've had the Kia Soul EV, we tried to go on a few different times, and one time we went down to Prescott. We wanted to go over to Ogdensburg before COVID. Now this was with the old Kia, which only had 180 kilometers, so it needed to charge more. But we went to the Prescott supercharger, or whatever, the Prescott charger there, level 3 charger, and there was already someone charging. There was someone waiting to go in the charging, and then there was us. So by the time we actually started charging, it would been almost an hour for us to charge. And, we had to charge for about 30 minutes or so. So it was over an hour and a half from the time we pulled into the charger to the time we left, for that. And because there was only one charger at that location, we've had situations where we've had broken chargers, and all that sort of thing. So the charging network is the biggest thing. I've had one bad experience with the Tesla charging network in Kingston, which was one of the first Tesla superchargers in this part of Canada, and it hasn't been upgraded, and it's quite old and quite slow in comparison to some other, if you look at Perth comparison to Kingston, it's a much slower charging in Kingston. And that's been my only time I've ever had to really wait for charging with the Tesla network. So with Tesla, they put, these days, 8 stalls is a small network. And it means that the likelihood that all of them are going to be used is really low. And if they happen to all be used, the chance that someone's going to, leave shortly is quite high. So, yeah, there you go. 128 supercharger stalls with 1,214 stalls. So it's where you might have more actual chargers for non-Teslas around the world. You're likely not to find more than 2. Some places there's 4 now, that with some of the Electrify Canada, some of these new ones coming in, they are starting to put in 4 at one location. But it just makes the availability, the possibility that there's someone already there, that chance quite high. Also, the cost. We drove in the Model Y, when we got it, out to Halifax and back, and I burned out the free supercharging miles on the way out there. So driving back, it cost me a little over $50 in supercharging to drive from Halifax back to Ottawa. So it's a quite economical system. Tesla is not, overcharging, whereas with some of these other third-party chargers, non-Tesla chargers, I've seen, different charging structures, like, flat fee of $24 to charge, but you can charge for as long as you want, and things like that, which are, the charging fees and structures, because they have to make money and the cost to install the chargers is quite high. It tends to be that you see that the non-Tesla chargers are charging a lot more than the Tesla superchargers, and that can create, a difference in your experience as well if you're having to pay a lot at the superchargers. Now, if, like my wife, who has yet to supercharge with her new car after 6 weeks, it tends to, it's a different experience. If you're looking for something just around the house, I mean, we around the, in your neighborhood, and you don't have to supercharge, then that's a different category. Um, the updates, as was it last month or whatever, that talked about how his Model 3 was better than when he bought it. I would absolutely agree with that. I've only had my Tesla a year, and it's absolutely better than the day I bought it. And there's a lot of updates that are planned and talked about and all of that. And most Teslas get most of the updates, and they tend to be a better vehicle over time. My wife's Model 3 really got no updates, and uh, uh, it was, it was no better than the day it was bought. In fact, it had less range, so I would consider it worse. And that comes back to the point about the service. We have taken my wife's car in for service. We paid a lot of money, like $300 for service, for the annual service. Supposedly they have the brakes cleaned, and then when we went to sell the um, car, my local mechanic failed the brakes because it was so rusted and corroded. So we had to pay to put new brakes on the vehicle. And I have at my house, and I would have lifted up and showed you, but I'm on vacation here, the old rotor, and um, uh, it was really badly corroded. So I don't know if they didn't, like, the time from when we paid for the brake cleaning to when we replaced the brakes was 5 months. It doesn't, nobody I've showed this rotor to looks like it was uh, that it was cleaned or anything was done to it. So it's I've had extremely good service. The only thing I've ever heard about Tesla's service is time, that they get into busy times, and sometimes you have to wait a few weeks to get a service appointment. But I've heard very few people who've ever complained about the service once they actually get it, that the actual service is great. When my mom bought her Y, the light was the seal was gone on the light, and there was water in the light. And they drove out to my mother's place in Carp and took the light out, put the new light in. So it was done right in the in the driveway, so to speak.
So Craig, can you try to go a bit? Can you try to go a bit faster because we're gonna run out of time?
Okay, sorry. And then the last one is the point I was going to make was the FSD and lane changing and all of that. The basic Teslas, without paying the 10,000, will stay in the lane. Will stay, we'll make sure it doesn't hit the car in front of you. All of that. But the FSD is coming, supposedly. We'll see. And it is really nice to be able to, on a long drive where it will actually pass slow cars in front of you and all of that at the moment. So the range, and then of course the last point, the app. The app is really nice with the Tesla. You can do most things. The Kia app is really slow, takes forever to update, all of that, and you still need a key. I haven't had a key for my Tesla. It's in my closet at home. I haven't used my key in months. So, is it an actual EV killer? Not really. I mean, the Kia Soul is better. It's got the cheaper price, the similar seating, adequate range for city driving, the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and it feels like a good traditional car. It's a great EV for a second car, or for if you're staying in town and you're not planning on doing a lot of cross-country drives or anything like that. But otherwise, the Kia Soul is not a Tesla killer, but it is the warning shot because the Model Y still has the longer range, the access to the charging network. It's faster and better charging. It has the ability to do FSD if you want to let the car drive itself. It has more room. It's getting the updates, and the service is far better than the traditional dealer service. So, do we have time for questions, Raymond? Did I burn through all the time?
We have time for, we have time for a few questions. Any questions, anybody? Steve,
I saw.
Yeah. Hey, Craig, were you at St. Hyacinthe yesterday? I see a wristband on your wrist.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, I was there too. I saw Nicholas there and a few other people from Ottawa. We had quite a nice little chit chat. So we had a good little contingent from Ottawa.
Yes, I have got some great footage and everything, but Raymond's got that in the past events there.
So I will take away his thunder. That's the only question I had.
Okay. No problem. Okay, so next topic is the adoption curve. So I'll be pretty brief about that, but I did want to update you on where we are in terms of market share. Sorry if this is a bit of a night chart there, but on the left-hand side, that is European market share for plug-in vehicles. Okay, so you're seeing it; they're hitting 10%. So from 2019 to 2020, it almost tripled. Okay, so very, very rapid increase in market share in Europe, and that's been driven by the change in regulation in Europe. But the good news is it means a lot more electric cars and a lot more models. Battery prices are going to go down because of volume, et cetera, et cetera. If you look at Germany alone, on the right-hand side, Germany went from about 3% up to close to 14% in 1 year. Okay, and you'll see on the next slide that they've gone even higher this year. So this gives you an idea where we are in that space. Now, if you look at the different countries, so Norway, of course, this is 2020 numbers. Norway was close to 75% last year. Canada is way down at the end over here, right around 3%. But you can see that there's a bunch of countries that are past 10% and growing. So, a lot of them are higher than that. Excuse me. If we look at a comparison for certain countries between 2020 and 2021, we see that Norway now is at 92%. So it's starting to flatten the curve. So when we talked about the technology adoption curves many times before, this actually shows here that they are getting at the flat part of they're getting there really fast, and they're moving. Their market share is incredible, but they're almost getting to saturation. The expectations is that Norway will be at 100% sometime around April next year, and you can see a few others. So the numbers here are from the first half of this year, or in September in some cases, or October. So Germany here, you see this, so it increased a heck of a lot last year, but it doubled again this year. Okay, so 28% of vehicles sold in, I believe it's September in that case, in Germany were plug-in vehicles. That's absolutely amazing from about 3 or 4% 2 years prior, right? So we're seeing rapid increases, what I would call exponential growth in market shares throughout the world. So, so very, very cool to see that. And I'm hoping that we will not be that far behind here in Canada. Things are looking good. Lots of vehicles are coming to market. So we should see some bigger numbers going forward. Steve, your hand is up. Was it still up, or was it, or do you have another comment or question?
Just a quick question. I see your graph there. Does that include plug-in hybrids as well?
Yes, it does.
Okay,
yes,
just want to make sure. Thank you.
Okay. That being said, what we're seeing is plug-in hybrids are representing a smaller and smaller proportion of the electrified vehicles being sold. So we're seeing a lot more battery electric, and the plug-in hybrids are slowly being replaced by battery electric. Okay. Any other comments, questions? No. Okay. So we'll go to the news with our friend Mike.
Yay, super fun. Okay, the news. Next slide. So for those of you that have been following along, EVCO played a big role in Ottawa getting or deciding to get electric buses into the OC Transpo fleet, and the first bus has arrived. Sean Menard posted out about 2 weeks ago now a tweet with these two pictures of the new bus. It's from New Flyer in Winnipeg. Yes, it's capable of winter driving because it's from Winterpeg. And that's what it looks like. It's basically the same sort of visual style as the articulated buses we have from New Flyer, only it's a 40-foot long battery electric bus. So look for that out on the roads. It's currently doing testing. And word is that they will start doing routes at some point soon. So take that as you will, but you should start seeing it show up. There should be 3 more joining it very soon as well. The city bought 4 for this year, and then they're going to buy 400 in the next couple of years. So these things are going to do the bit of an exponential growth curve of their own. Next slide, please. Oh, I see a question from Larry. Go ahead.
Hi, so I just, it's a great news about the buses. I just know that there are some, I think, hybrid buses currently on the road that make a lot of noise. They have these fans all across, the little computer fans. Do we know if the electric buses still have that, or do you think they improved the noise on these?
So the
thoughts?
hybrid buses that Ottawa has are from Nova Bus, or no,
Okay.
they're Orions. They're super old. They are, I thought they got them all taken out of service. So those,
Great.
if there are still hybrid buses on the road, they will not be long for this world. As far as I understand, they're being decommissioned as quickly as possible. They didn't meet the specs that they were supposed to be getting, and there was a big scandal about that. These battery electric buses are basically silent.
Fantastic.
So
Great for everybody.
Much quieter. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. The other bus that made a lot of noise were the articulated buses, I should point out. And that's because the cooling system on the diesel engine at the back required a lot of air flow. And so those fans would ramp up to ridiculous decibels as the bus sat in traffic. So that was another issue that OC Transpo's had with noise on buses. It was the diesels, just to keep the cooling going. So they had to fix that, but that should have been fixed as well. Anyway, yeah, thanks for the question. So Canada's getting not 1, but 2 battery cell factories. So they both have very similar names. So I was like, are they related? But they're not. I looked. So British Volt and Storm Volt are both planning on building battery factories in Quebec, probably because Quebec's government is very pro-EV, and they probably have a lot of incentives on the offering. British Volt currently operates a 30 gigawatt hour battery plant in the UK, and they are partnering with some companies in Montreal, and they're looking to build a 60 gigawatt, so twice as much battery capacity production in and around the Montreal area. They're currently looking for land to site the factory, and they're also looking at government funding, which is probably why Quebec, as I mentioned. Stormvolt is a startup from Ontario. They are owned by Delta Electronics. I'm not sure if that's the same Delta as the one that makes tools, but it might be. But anyway, they're going to build a smaller, more modest 10 gigawatt hour plant, and they're apparently going to serve Nova Bus and Lion Electric, so also in the Montreal area. So there should be 2 new battery cell plants taking advantage of Quebec's cheap hydro and, you know, money from the government. So hopefully that pans out, and it looks like it will. Next slide, please. So I made I did update this slide at one point today, but I guess it didn't make it into the thing. I made a little bit of a joke about Stellantis catching an SDI, but anyway, there's a joke in there about the names. So Stellantis is the company formerly known as FCA, Fiat Chrysler. They've partnered with LG already to build a 40 gigawatt hour factory somewhere in North America. They haven't actually decided where yet, but they will be breaking ground very soon. So presumably somebody knows where this factory is going to go. My money would be in Tennessee or Kentucky, one of those two states, as that's where their factories tend to be going because there's no unions and they don't like unions. There's now a new agreement with Samsung. So Stellantis is getting frisky with everybody. And they're going to build another factory, 23 gigawatt hours, expandable to 40. So in theory, by 2025, Stellantis will have up to 80 gigawatt hours of battery production, which is good. It's a start. And they want 40% of their vehicle fleet to be electric by the end of the decade. But if our growth curves are anything to go by, that will be undershooting. So look for more announcements about battery factories coming soon. They are spending quite a bit of change, though. Okay, so this is table. You can take a bit of time to parse it. There's a lot of data on there, and the one company in the middle doesn't apply to North America at all. But basically, this is a table that Volkswagen put out based on data from a magazine called Auto Zeitung, which is like a German automotive magazine. And the German automotive magazine compared a whole bunch of vehicles, not just Volkswagens, but a whole bunch of vehicles. And they compared the gas to a similar electric counterpart from the same companies. And so Volkswagen basically took the data and ran with it and are highlighting that you'd be a fool to buy a fossil-based Volkswagen at this point now, because the electric ones are 30 to 50% cheaper to own. And this is from Volkswagen. So Volkswagen is basically telling people, don't be an idiot and buy a gas Volkswagen or a diesel Volkswagen. Buy the electric one. So that's something. That's cool. And these are the numbers. They're in euros, of course, because this is for the European market. But we have a major automaker telling you not to buy their diesels. So progress, I think. Next slide, please. All right. So BMW is going to use fossil-free steel from a company named H2 Green Steel out of Sweden. Raymond's talked about this a few times about how making steel is super carbon intensive, but if they use hydrogen, it's less carbon intensive by a lot. A 95% decrease in CO2 emissions. And that's what H2 steel is doing. They're using clean energy to electrolyze water to create hydrogen, which they then use in the steel fabrication process to make green steel. And so BMW, along with actually a few other companies, there's several companies in Europe looking and have partnered with green steel producers. This is just the latest one. So BMW is partnering with H2, but there is another company, I forget the name of the company, but Volvo actually just received their first shipment of hydrogen steel or green steel from that company as well, and is now making vehicles with carbon-free steel effectively. So production for this deal for BMW is starting in 2024, and they're going to make 5 million tons, I guess, by year by 2030.
It would be per year, more likely. Yeah.
Probably per year.
Yeah.
Spencer, you had a question?
A comment. The Mercedes is going to be working with the same company that Volvo is, and if anybody's interested in how this all works, Just Have a Think has 2 really, really good videos on how there is so much carbon in steel. It's like twice as much tonnage, like 2 or 3 tons of carbon to every ton of steel. It's a mind-boggling amount of carbon in steel. But they I think it's there's no ads. You just go right into it. He's very good.
Yeah. I was just going to mention that. Just Have a Think today. Today actually put out the video on that. So have a Google and Just Have a Think, and it'll explain the whole steel making process with hydrogen. That's basically what these 2 companies are doing. Next slide, please. When the computer is willing. Yeah, there we go. All right, so yeah, COP is happening in about a week from now. COP 26 in Scotland. All the cool people are showing up, including Canada. But there was a leak recently reported on here by the BBC. Greenpeace got the leak apparently, and it's basically they got a big data dump of 32,000 submissions made by governments and companies and the biggest, baddest people on Earth, essentially trying to undermine the whole decarbonization process. So Canada, UK, and the US are pushing back against this whole like forestry is good thing, saying that like the IPCC was basically critical of the forestry sector, saying that like you can't just rely on forestry to offset all your carbon. It's cheap greenwashing effectively. And so Canada, UK, and the US are pushing back on that notion, saying, oh, but we want to. Japan is a huge consumer of oil because they're an island and they don't like electric cars for whatever reason. So they are pushing against that being seen negatively. And Australia, of course, loves their coal. And we're all the wealthy countries, and Canada's among them, are lobbying against having to pay the poor countries to move to greener technology. And if you paid attention at all to the Paris Agreement, the wealthy countries agreed to spend, it was like $100 billion a year, something like this, to give to countries like India and a lot of the African countries, so that they could decarbonize and move to like skip all the carbon intensive technologies and move right to the green stuff. So build solar farms and all that. And we've been neglecting to pay that money, and we're being called out on it. And of course, we're pushing back behind the scenes apparently. So this is to for shame Canada and our allies for not, for going to COP26 and saying, yeah, we're going to do things for the climate, and then behind the scenes pull these sort of shenanigans. So that's not great.
Yeah.
So next slide, please. Yeah.
So Mike, the 100 billion is total. It's not per year, and
Okay.
and it's really insufficient, is what the poor countries are saying.
Right, and we haven't even met it though, right? So like I just heard that on
Yeah.
CBC this morning that we haven't even paid the 100 billion, which isn't even enough to begin with, right? So
Well, it's not
we as in
it's
the wealthy countries.
It's a multi-year commitment, but they were looking for 100 billion total, and there hasn't been a commitment of 100 billion total yet, right? Now the good
Yeah, but
news
the
is
due
that
date was like 2022, so
to
like it was
to
by
say
2022 100 billion, right? It was
the commitment, not the actual money. So the commitment to spend the money was supposed to be better. But anyways, the
anyway,
good
it was
news though,
back.
yeah, the good news though is that green energy is becoming so cheap that it won't make sense for the poorer countries to do anything but green energy. So
Still, we just keeping us honest, right? We gotta stay
yeah,
honest.
we
Anyway.
should meet our commitments. Yeah.
All right, so the Tesla corner. So I know every month like Tesla's in the news a lot, and I don't. This is the Electric Vehicle Council, not the Tesla Vehicle Council. So I thought I would lump all the Tesla stuff into one chunk at the end of the news, so as to not just make it Tesla news all the time. But there's some cool things that are happening if you're in the Tesla land. The CCS adapter has launched in Korea and is coming to North America, apparently for sure now this time for reals. That's what it looks like, and it's got the right connector on it for us. So it's got the North American J1772 on it. So it's not cheap, but Tesla, so whatevs. They also had Cybertruck Alpha prototypes out in the wild. They were caught on film, sort of like Sasquatch style. Somebody was like, "Oh my God, it's a Cybertruck with wing mirrors." So yes. There are apparently three alpha prototypes out being tested, and they're now moving on to beta testing the Cybertruck. And Elon Musk has said that if you want, you can actually remove the side mirrors because I guess that's cool. Full self-driving was delayed again. And for those of you who bought full self-driving 2.0 on your Model S back in the day, you're going to need some new camera upgrades. And it's still in beta. years after it was supposed to be delivered. So voila, the saga continues. But in happy news, they saw their 9th consecutive profitable quarter just recently. So to all the people that were like, you can't make money on EVs and Tesla will never be profitable, well, there you go. They're now at a run rate of 1 million cars a year. So that puts them at being larger than Subaru. So cool. Tesla's bigger than Subaru now. So yeah, if you think Subaru's a good company, Tesla's better. There you go. Now, some real news. Hertz ordered 100,000 Model 3s. They're supposed to have them starting by the end of 2022 in the US. I'm not sure if that includes Canada in their order. I could only find stuff about the US getting chargers and cars and whatnot. So
actually,
I made that little graphic, by the way.
Yeah, sorry, Mike. So they're actually going to start shipping some in November this year. So they'll be receiving some in November this year, but they should all be delivered by the end of next year, which means Tesla has to produce 100,000 Model 3s for Hertz in a year. Right. So if you're wondering why the delivery dates are pushed back, this is probably one of the reasons. Right.
Yeah. Yep. They'll be. Yeah, well, it says right there, they'll be available for rental in some locations next month. And Hertz actually is aiming to have the largest electric vehicle rental fleet in North America, and they're not just going to rely on Tesla. So I see a couple of hands. Oh, there's a few hands. I'm not sure who was first, but we'll go with Marcel.
Yeah, I'm thinking that this news has been the reason that stock's gone to 1,024 today.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is because if you look at the Hertz stock, it's up 8% as well.
Yeah, it's pulled up some other stock. Yeah, but so the Tesla stock has been on a tear for the last little while, but it really it went up by almost 13% today, and that's likely because of the announcement from Hertz. Now, the announcement from Hertz is probably also what caused NIO and Xpeng and BYD to go up also, because it's bullish for electric vehicles overall, right?
And I didn't know that Tesla
source it from a bunch of companies.
I didn't know that Hertz went up, but Hertz going up is actually good for Tesla too. So people who buy Hertz stock think that this is good news. So
yeah.
Who else do we have? Spencer? Still have a question?
Sorry, I didn't have my hand up, but are you going to cover the chap that bought the Taycan and says charging an electric car is more expensive than gas?
No, because that's bullshit news.
No.
And we don't cover bullshit. We only cover real news.
Well, we should at least cover how to convince your crazy uncle in a sentence and a half that it's bullshit.
Oh, I don't know if you can. I mean, isn't that what all our meetings are about? Is trying to figure out how to convince your crazy uncle that EVs are actually not golf carts. But yeah, that's a good point. So for those who weren't paying attention, yeah, there's been a couple of FUD articles out in the past month about how EVs are more expensive somehow than gas cars. And it's all nonsense, of course, using bad logic and fuzzy logic. So I neglected it. I think we have Mitchell. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was going through that news on the Hertz Tesla thing, and there was somebody who put up they already apparently have bookings available for Tesla Model 3s in certain markets. And the price I saw for a rental for a Model 3 was something like $109 a day, which is actually pretty amazing because I'm going through just from looking at other cars you could rent, and that's basically in line with every other car that you could rent from like a regular gas car. So like if you were to rent, say, a Mazda 3 for a week, it's $670 US for that entire week. And if it was
$100 a
$109 a
day.
day for a Tesla, that's basically $750 a day, or $750 for the month, or for
Yeah.
the week, sorry.
For the week.
So I mean, like it's a pretty like cost competitive. It's not like they're gonna charge you double or triple what you would get if you were just renting any other car. It seems
The
to
only
be kind
question is, do you have to return it with a full charge? I wonder.
that was kind of everybody else's question too. I mean, it like with your gas cars, you get unlimited miles, so I would assume that you would also get unlimited miles for the Tesla. And if you're gonna give you unlimited miles and you want to differentiate yourself, I would also give you unlimited free supercharging. But you know,
Yeah,
we'll see how that works out.
Yeah. Steve, I think you were next.
Yeah, just a comment. First of all, you mentioned Japan, and I think that hydrogen thing with Toyota in Japan, I saw like a plug-in Toyota yesterday in St. Hyacinthe. So maybe they're in the near future, they're going to rethink their whole stance on that. But my question for you, Mike, is BYD buses made in the United States by unionized workers. Apparently, the Biden administration had put barriers up for municipalities and states to buy those buses. Do you have a comment on that, or do you have any visibility on that issue?
Not that specific issue. I know like BYD has a factory in Newmarket, Ontario as well. So for the Canadian market, presumably buses would be built there. I know Biden's big on union, and rightly so. Like that's fine, whatever. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but also, there may be an issue with the American content of the buses, because I believe that they're shipping most of the parts from China. So they're assembling them here, but they're shipping stuff from China.
Yeah.
That's
From my
definitely
understanding,
something.
they're made by unionized workers in the United States, and there is Chinese content. But I think the bigger issue here that BYD is a Chinese company, and America First apparently doesn't extend to companies owned by other foreign powers.
I mean, so when I was researching stuff for the e-bus campaign for Ottawa, I did a presentation many months ago now on that. I did come across a bunch of articles talking about BYD buses in the US, and there were more than a few cities that had contracted with BYD, and then what the buses they received were subpar quality-wise, and those contracts were actually terminated, and they switched makers to like Proterra or New Flyer or these other companies. So I know that I know some cities are less than keen to buy BYD buses based on the quality control, but that is old news as well. So who knows if that might have played into it or not? I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard stories of BYD electric buses stalling on hills and things like that. I think you've heard the same stories.
Yeah. So I think there's probably a lot of things at play. I don't generally care about politics that much, and I try and stay away if I can. Art, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was reading an article yesterday, I believe, on the Cybertruck, and they dropped the term rear wheel steering. What do you know about that?
Yeah, so that's actually not something that's very new to the segment. There are a few vehicles that have rear wheel steering, and basically it reduces the turn radius of the truck. Now it's not going to be like full like the front does, but there are a few cars that have it. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but maybe somebody else in the meeting can think of one. I know the military uses it as well for a lot of their vehicles. But basically what it does is when you turn the wheel, say, to the left, the front wheels will point to the left and the rear wheels will sort of point to the right, so that you can, it just makes a tighter turning circle effectively to help you get out of parking spots and whatnot. So that's the thing. And presumably they can copy the crab mode from the Hummer, and they can do maybe the tank steer thing from Rivian. There's a few, actually they probably can't do the Rivian thing because the motor configuration, but presumably they'll be able to do the crab mode thing that the Hummer does.
It depends on the system, because like if you look at the Prelude and the Skyline, they had it, but it was a bit of an odd system. The Hummer has a different system that's like full steering in the back as well.
Yeah. It basically just means tighter turning circles so that your truck doesn't take an entire 4-lane road to do a
It's actually
U-turn kind
pretty
of thing.
common on trucks in, especially in Europe, where they'll have, I think like Class 8 trucks that have 2 axles on the back. The rear one will steer, just because
Yeah.
everything's really tight over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know
thank
there's
you.
like, it was like an Escalade maybe or something. There were vehicles on the North American market that had it. But they were like those huge, ridiculous vehicles that people bought.
Okay,
All
thank you.
right. Yeah, no worries.
Great. So I'll just make a comment about this steel, green steel. So yes, Volvo is looking at doing that, but actually what I'm hearing from conferences like Decarb Connect is all the automakers are putting a lot of pressure on steel makers to come up with a greener solution for steel. Because as Mike said, steel represents a large portion of global greenhouse gases. It's 7 to 8% of global greenhouse gases in steel production alone. So that is huge. So if we could get rid of that, that'll make a big difference.
Oh, Volvo's not just looking, they're contracted and they've actually received shipments
Yeah,
of green
yeah.
steel. So
Yeah, but what I'm saying is all the other automakers are looking to their suppliers to be able to do the same thing. So it's very encouraging to see that. Okay, so Mitchell, do you want to talk about the Hydro Ottawa charging station incentive?
Yeah, I can do that. Is it okay if I share my screen so I can do that?
Sure. Let me
So I'll go
just,
ahead and share my, it's just going to be for the actual kind of news article about it, as well as kind of the information that Hydro Ottawa was able to share at this point. So now my page comes up there, right? Everybody else can see it?
Yep, it's there.
yes.
Right, great. Yeah, so this is Hydro Ottawa's new page where they introduce their funding mechanisms. For some reason, they threw it under innovation, where it's not really innovative. It's been done before, but anyways, they're looking to get 50% back for installing electric vehicle charging stations, and the way that works is, if you're looking to do so, you would come to them with a site, or you get in touch with a site that you think would be a good place to put a charging station, and they make the request on your behalf. And it's basically, as a goal of that is to increase the amount of charging stations in Ottawa. And their kind of project is looking to increase the number of chargers that are available to the public tenfold. So that way you would get, from the, like, my estimate is that we currently have around 25 to 30 chargers. So then you're looking at 250 to 300 chargers available once this program kind of wraps up. They're going to start distributing it soon. They're saying probably mid-November for it. So if you're looking to, if you know a site that you've been in touch with before about this kind of initiative, you could reach out to them and let them know about it so that you can kind of be at the front of the queue when they're ready to launch that initial funding call. And they're only going to be focusing on the city of Ottawa for the period between now and February 28th of 2022. So the goal is to kind of get as many of these installed in the city of Ottawa as possible. If they aren't able to find a number of sites within Ottawa by that date, they'll move on to other geographical areas. The main ones that I think would be good spots are the multi-residential buildings, because we know that those ones are the hardest ones to retrofit. Your workplaces, your light duty fleets, your on-street parking, your public places, those ones would also be great. But considering 80% of your charging happens at home, at least from the current uses of the vehicle, your multi-residential buildings would be kind of where I would imagine most of the charging stations should go. So those are the different options there. I will note as well, the city's already installing 12 different on-street parking EV stations by the end of the year. So that's kind of why I was looking at multi-unit residential buildings. So if you know anybody who currently lives in a multi-unit residential building who's already approached their condo board to ask about this kind of thing, or if you're a property manager and you know somebody in the property management space that's also managing multi-residential buildings, this kind of funding mechanism would be something I would recommend you reach out to and get them on board with and start that process early.
To that extent, I am a member of the Ontario Multi-Residential Property Managers Association. There's a meeting in a couple of days, and there's going to be a whole segment about that. So finally, multi-residential units will be informed about this and be able to hopefully get this on the radar. It's been a little slow in getting it on their radar as, oh, this is a 10-year problem. And I've been screaming at them, no, it's a 2-year problem. And finally, they're figuring it out. But anyway.
That's good to hear. I mean, if there's already that kind of interest, it's great. So this kind of initiative is targeting groups that have 20 chargers or less. The reason why is because in some instances with some funding programs, there's dedicated applications for groups that are putting in 20 chargers or more. And so that's where the application comes in for that. You can make your own request. But this is targeting like smaller scale installations rather than those larger ones that you would typically see for like say a car rental company or a taxi fleet or like a new construction project that's putting in Tesla superchargers as an example. So those kinds of projects where there's less than 20 chargers going in at a site are the primary objective of this goal, this funding round this time around. And so if you do that 20 EV connectors times that by, down here you've got your different amounts that are eligible per connector, your 20 times 5,000 gets you to 100,000. So that's how that number works out. You can't really go and install 20 fast chargers because you'll max out your dollar amount quite quickly. But if you wanted to make a combination of a one faster charger and then a handful of level 2s to go with that, you totally could. Generally, the level 2s are probably a better business case because these ones are much more expensive. But if you're really keen on being really innovative, you can go ahead. And this kind of funding covers everything from the initial engineering costs to the licenses and permits, your professional kind of construction installation costs, the HST as well gets in there, and as well if there ever needed to be an environmental assessment, which is highly unlikely, but in the event it does, it's basically an all-in eligible cost. So there's very few things that are not eligible to be covered. So they've also got a phone number and an email. I would recommend if you wanted to get in touch with them, the phone call would be the better option. Your email would likely get put in a queue, and instead of just being able to call them, I'd say that's the easiest way if you had questions to get that sorted out, or at least to get in touch with somebody who could actually answer your call. Because I believe this goes directly to an actual employee rather than this email, which kind of just gets brought to an inbox to maybe be looked at some point. Yeah, so that's generally the program itself. Like I said, I'd hope that a lot of them go in multi-unit residence buildings because that's where we hear a lot of concerns from residents about how I'm going to be able to charge my car if I live in an apartment or a condo. That's the way you get it done. And if you're able to get it installed in a multi-residential building, I would highly recommend you get a load management system installed at the same time, because that will really cut down on your retrofit costs for that project. So just something to keep in mind for that.
And actually, that's something, the initial cost for doing a setup that could be expandable afterwards is one of the reasons why a level 2 may cost up to $10,000 under this program, right? So
yeah, I mean, like the actual charger itself, like if you were just doing residential chargers, those residential chargers could be put in, like each one is only $1,000 or $1,200 or whatever it is. It's more so the actual connection chargers that go into that, and connecting it to your electrical supply and running it from one site to another, and upgrading the electrical capacity, perhaps if you have a really old building. All those things kind of add up in a multi-unit residential setting.
Cool, very cool. Okay, any questions, comments on that? Anybody see me on the news? No? Nobody
Did it
saw
go
me on
well?
CTV News? No?
Like on the
Jeez, I went to,
TV?
yeah, I
Was it
went
was
to
it streaming or was it like
I went
I-
to hockey the other night and everybody saw it on TV. Anyways, they interviewed me
what
for this program. I just gave a few little pointers and it wasn't particularly interesting. So,
I'm sure it was fascinating.
oh, super fascinating. For me, anyways. They only use it as a very small part of what I told them. So,
Somebody had a hand up, I saw.
okay, let's get back to the next slide. Our next topic is the elections in January. So as I mentioned at the start of the meeting, as we do every year, we're going to have some elections for the board. And the way things work is a portion of the board gets elected every year and elected for a 2-year term. So we have 5 people right now who are up for re-election in January. So Mike, Gerard, Darren, Matt, and Mitchell. And we have 3 people who are returning for an extra year. So myself, Nicola, and Craig. I haven't pinged the board members to see if they want to continue, but I'm expecting there could be 1 or 2 that will 1 or 2 positions that may open up. And so if you have a bit of time and want to get more involved, we'd certainly appreciate having additional board members on board so that we could continue doing what we can next year to promote EVs. So on that note too, next year, if we get the funding from the government, we'll be fairly busy. If we don't get the funding for the government, it doesn't mean we won't be busy, but we'll be relying on different mechanisms to reach out to people, leveraging more events that are pre-canned that we are going to work on, right? So, and I'll talk a bit about that in the next section. So is there any questions on that? Any comments? No?
I would like to continue. I would like to run, so I'll stick around.
You're going to stick around. Oh my God. Okay.
Stick around.
Cool. So,
I was
so
just
again,
going
if
to
you're,
say,
yep.
I was just going to say that for people that join the board, they're not necessarily in a position like vice president right away. The board figures out who gets what positions in the first board meeting in the new year. So it's sometime between January and February, we have a meeting and we figure out who's going to be doing what. So that's how we got Raymond in president's role. We just stuck it to him.
Yeah, we've all told him.
Hey,
We're like, you there, boy,
Yeah.
be the president.
You got stuck the same way, Mike.
That's
Yeah,
true. I
yeah.
did. I'm not complaining.
But yeah, so yeah, the actual executive positions are determined at the first board meeting. So and we'll do that again, even for all the positions, right? At the first meeting in early February. So any other comments, questions? No? Is there a king? No, there's no king, unfortunately. I wish I could be the king, but when you have volunteers, you can't just tell them what to do. It doesn't work that way.
I mean, it's not even a benevolent dictatorship at this point.
Anyways, no, we have quite a bit of fun on the board, and of course, there's always going to be some stuff that we need to do officially through the board. So again, if you're interested, just think about it, and we'll be polling or asking for people later on in the year, probably sometime in the weeks before the January meeting. Okay. Cool. So past events, reaching out the bubble, outside the bubble. So I don't know who else I joined this. I'm trying to remember now. Green Drinks, I joined this particular one last week. If you missed it, or not last week, last month, if you missed it, they have recordings of these sessions, so you're more than welcome to go and look at them. They're on YouTube on the SmartNet Alliance channel. This was quite interesting. They talked about essentially, Green Books. What they're doing is They are providing services to companies that have green mandates. And Clean Tech Commons is an area at Trent University where they have 65 acres that are meant for green tech companies to have space to do whatever they need to do on a small scale before they go on to becoming a larger concern, right? And LOCSS Consulting, what they do is they consult to green businesses. So very interesting presentation. Oh, someone wants to come in. So this is a bit of a repeat here that we had the pop-up expo on September 26th, right? Then we had the Drive Green. That was was it? I can't remember which one is what. Anyways, on September 27th, which I believe is the day of our last meeting, we had I was interviewed for a green room thing, and then we had another presentation on the 20th of September. And you probably remember this picture from before. So we had the drive-by demo, and this is after the rain, I guess. Eh? It's all wet.
Double rainbow all the way.
Yeah.
You can actually see the two rainbows in this picture too.
You do?
Yeah, go back.
Oh, yeah.
See, there's one going into the hotel, and then there's one going over the CIBC. Yeah.
Yeah, right there. Yeah. Cool. Anyways, that was fun. And then also October 2nd, we had the sustainability showcase, formerly known as Guido. And results from that, we had on the drive and ride side of things, we had 7 cars actually available. Yeah, it is a nice Leaf, right, Phil? And you're actually sitting in that Leaf in the picture. And we had a total of 28 test drives. Now the weather was horrendous. Well, horrendous. It was wet and it wasn't a great day for the weather. But it turned out that we still did 28 test drives. The 2 Teslas that were doing test drives were very busy, and the Leaf did 1 or 2, and the Soul did 2 or 3, I believe. And we had a few other rides. We had 3 cars that were available for rides only, and so pretty happy about that. Given the weather, I think it exceeded my expectations with the forecast we were getting. And also, for those who weren't there, it was the the Panda game that day. So a good portion of the time between maybe 11 o'clock until shortly after 12, there was a tsunami of students going through our area. So it slowed things down a bit, but we still managed to do pretty good. On the static display side, we had a lot of interesting stuff. I've got a sample here of some of the cars that were in the display. We had Harley Davidson with 2 electric motorcycles. We had Mark Motors with, they had 4 cars. There's one of them there. And so it was great to have them there. We had also a few Bolts from Surgeoner, I believe, right? Was it Surgeoner?
There was one Bolt EUV from Surgeoner. Yeah.
It was one. Okay.
It's the one. Yeah.
So, yeah. So a lot of fun. I thought it went quite well. Again, if the weather would have been better, I'm sure it would have we would have had more visitors. But all in all, it was a great day. And thanks to everybody who helped to organize that and to man the cars and all that. Wanted to go over again the Climate Leadership Corps thing, which finished on the weekend. So I was a mentor for that, and I had a group of 21 people that I was mentoring, and it went quite well. So if you're interested in attending this training in the future, please go to the Climate Reality website, and there should be a link to future training if you want to get in there. Okay. Other thing that we did, so yesterday, a lot of us were in Saint-Hyacinthe, as was mentioned earlier, to do the world record EV parade or whatever we called it. So here's a sample of some of the cars that were there. There were 733 EVs, so we beat the record. The old record was somewhere around 507, I believe, and it was set in Berlin in 2015, I think. Darren, were you there? I didn't think Darren.
No, I was not at that event. I didn't make it.
Okay. Okay. So I saw Alan there. Actually, I bumped into him. It just happened to be that I saw him. It was kind of hard to meet anybody there that you knew, given the large number of cars, right? So
It's because we're doing house rentals, so I missed out.
You were doing house rentals?
Yeah, we're still going through house rentals, so.
Okay. Okay. So there's
I mean,
lots.
look at all those cars. The noise and exhaust must have been horrendous.
Yeah, yeah. One thing that surprised me was we saw a lot of Mach-E's. There were probably, I would say, 20 Mach-E's among the group, which, given the numbers that have been sold, it surprised me. Lots of Konas, lots of Teslas, obviously, and quite a few others. Not that many Leafs, a few Leafs, lots of Bolts. But it was nice to see a good variety, a few Porsches, a few other odds and ends like that too. So,
But to your comment,
sorry,
there's an e-Golf. There's an e-Golf. But my comment to Mike's point was the loudest thing that happened was there was a train that was sort of about, I don't know, a few hundred meters away, and the train went by, and that was the loudest part of the whole event.
Actually, the ground shook. The ground shook when the train passed. It was weird. Nicola, you had a comment?
Oh, yeah, it was funny. I rolled my windows down at some point, and it was pretty quiet. But if you listen carefully, there was like a weird spacey hum, just sort of everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, it was weird. There were a few Polestars also.
I only saw one.
Yeah, I saw two.
Okay.
So, yeah. So one of the guys I know who was actually right here, and I can't remember his name, but anyways, he's got one. Okay, so that's that.
Were there any e-trons? Were there any e-trons? Because apparently Hans Zimmer made the sound for the e-tron.
I think I saw one.
Yeah, I don't personally. I don't remember seeing one.
So, so Hans Zimmer, the great musician who makes all the movie soundtracks, he apparently was contracted for the e-tron sounds. Okay. So there you
go. Cool. So there was also an electric auto show in Saint-Hyacinthe for over 3 days. And one cool car that I put this here for Jadal mostly because Jadal's got an old Beetle of about the same vintage, but he refuses to convert it. When he converted the Beetle, he converted a new Beetle, not the old Beetle. But this one is fully electric, so it looks really nice. But the one thing that was the most surprising for me is this vehicle here. It's the Imperium. It's a Chinese company. And as it says there, well, they inspired that the guy told us, you know, the Chinese are really good at copying stuff. So what they did is they copied the Volvo and they copied the Mercedes. Anyways, bottom line is it's inspired by Volvo and Mercedes designs. It's the luxury, the premium version is $45,000 before incentives. Okay. So that's pretty amazing. This thing is really nice, and I've got a picture here of the interior.
Wait, are these on sale for Canada? Like we can buy these?
Yes, sir. So there's going to be 25.
Put them in the guide.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, there's going to be 12.
They're coming next year. They're not here yet.
But yeah, but they're going to order them.
Yeah, you could order them. Yeah, you have to pay $100 deposit or something. You could order them.
Right, I'll put it in the guide right now.
Okay, so there'll be 2,500 of them shipped to Canada next year. 1,500 are going to Quebec. Okay, so there's 1,000 for the rest of Canada. But these are very, very nice vehicles. I'm very, very happy to see these for a couple of reasons. I think they'll sell well, for one thing. But the other thing I'm thinking is this will put pressure on prices and will pressure other manufacturers to reduce their prices. If you look at the Volvo XC40, which I believe is smaller than this vehicle, it's quite a bit more expensive, at least 25, 30K more. I believe, right? It's around 70 or 80K, Mike, I think. So
Hang on, what was that? Sorry, the Volvo what?
MX40 or the recharge, the
XC40?
XC40
XC40
recharge.
starts at
Yeah.
59.9.
59.9.
60.
Okay. Okay.
So it starts at
So
60.
it's a bit less expensive than I thought, but very, very nice car. So it was kind of funny. I asked the guys what kind of charging port it had, and the guys had zero idea what they were talking about. So all they could tell me is the port that was on the car was a Chinese port, and I asked the guy, well, can you do fast charging with it? And he tells me no. He says, it'll take 10 hours to charge it with a level 2. And then he says, oh, but there's an option to charge it in 30 minutes. And I said, well, what kind of port does it use? Anyway, it turns out it's a CCS combo that it's going to have. That model had the Chinese port, but the Canadian version will have a CCS combo. So it will support J1772, which they have to sell in Canada, and we'll use CCS combo. So it should be quite easy to charge it. Not sure
those
how
prices. It's
Yep.
cheaper than a Leaf.
Yeah. Is it the long range Leaf, right?
No, the Leaf SV starts at 37, and that's also 37. So.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. And you see at the bottom there, it says the one on the Comfort one is 450 kilometers, I think, and the other one is 520 kilometers. So
450. It's not on their website, so I need this information. Hang on. Just give me a sec.
So and I don't know if that's EPA rating or not. If they have it or not, it might be European rating. But if it's
Comfort
even
is what, 450 you said for Comfort?
Yeah, 450. The other one is 520.
Okay.
So
Probably
55 kilowatt hour battery, and the other one is 72 kilowatt hour.
Any other stats that you know?
That's what's there. I don't
Okay.
have any other stats.
It has
So
4 cup holders. It's blue. Lavishly equipped with 4 doors. I
But
went
it's
to see it in
Skywell.
person. I went to see it in person too, and it is a really it's nice. I was knocking on all the panels, and it seems pretty solid. I was pretty impressed.
yeah.
Okay, so it's called Skywell, the company.
One is the company, one is the model. Imperium. They were saying
It's the
Imperium.
Yeah, the
So-
model was Skywell.
It's
My
Skywell Imperial.
sense is these guys have a long way to go to establish a dealer network in Canada.
Yeah. So they're talking about having 70 dealers within a couple of years, but they're just supposed to be setting up dealers in the next few months, I believe. So the first few, anyways. So yeah, it's gonna be a long road for them to really get there. But if they're serious, and they seem to be, this is a fantastic price point. So I hope at least they put pressure on the other manufacturers to lower prices, right?
Well, they'll definitely put pressure on Mazda with its MX-30 because it's cheaper and longer range than that.
Yeah, so they had an MX-30 there, and the salesman was telling people that it had a 200-kilometer range, which is BS, right? It's 161. So I think the WLTP range is 200 though, but the EPA range is 161. So anyways, other vehicles that were there, so the Mazda was there, but other vehicles of note, they had an ID4, they had a Kia EV6, which is similar to the vehicle you're getting, Mike, right?
Yeah, same platform.
Yeah, and they didn't have any of the Hyundai, the Ioniq 5. They didn't have any Ioniq 5s. They had lots of bolts. So there was a Chevrolet dealer there that probably had 6 of them, and they had the EOV and the regular one. So I'm thinking that there's some places where they've got to have some stock if this guy had that many to put in the show, right? They were doing drives. So they were doing drives, and they had 27 cars for that, and they were getting a lot of drives in. So, and they were very well organized also the way they did it. So there's certainly a good model for what we could be doing going forward. Okay, any questions on that?
Raymond?
Yeah, Raymond, I was
Raymond,
surprised I didn't see
you missed-
Polestar or Lucid Motors there.
Sorry, if Lucid was not there?
Yeah, Lucid, and I didn't see any Polestars there. Did you? At the,
There was one Polestar, but it wasn't Volvo.
It wasn't a Volvo
Yeah, it was
display, right?
It was some other company.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
I think a protection film company or something like that, or a
Yeah,
charging
yes,
company. No, it was a
yeah.
charging company that had the Polestar.
wow.
But Raymond, you missed the most important vehicle. You didn't mention they had the first Plaid Model S in Canada there.
They did? Okay, I didn't look at the Teslas. I
Tesla.
didn't.
It only came in on the Sunday. It arrived apparently in Canada on the Saturday, was picked up on the Saturday and brought over on the Sunday. So they had at the Tesla booth, they had a original Roadster and they had the Plaid Model S side by side. My God, the Roadster's small. I couldn't believe how small it was. But yep, I saw the Plaid Model S with the yoke steering and everything.
The yoke steering?
So it was, it was behind the rope, so you couldn't actually sort of go in and touch it or get in the vehicle or anything like that, but you could at least drool from afar.
Yeah. Well, I didn't go see the Teslas because I didn't think there was anything interesting to see there. Well, anything that I would have learned is what I mean. I'm sure they were quite interesting to talk to. That was the Quebec Tesla owners group that was there with those vehicles.
Yes.
So very cool, because Tesla still doesn't do any marketing, right? And actually, back to the Hertz thing, Hertz was starting to do ads today apparently, with who's the guy that Brady, I think, Tom Brady, I think.
Brady.
Yeah, so they're going to be doing a whole bunch of ads highlighting or showcasing the Model 3, and Tesla's not paying a penny for that, right? So that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, just to comment on the Tesla Plaid, that would have to be a privately owned Tesla Plaid.
Yes.
It is, but I was up at the Barhaven Tesla dealer. They have a couple up there now. You can go and view the yoke up at Barhaven.
Okay. But those would definitely be among the first in Canada, right? So, and
what's
the Model
in
X
Barhaven?
Sorry?
What's in Barhaven?
They have a couple of Tesla S Plaids. Well, they did last week when I was up there Monday night.
What?
Yeah. They might be gone. They might be gone by now because they're not showroom models. They're sold, right? So
literally, I saw one coming off the truck when I was up there Monday. So they sell all their cars before they're ordered. So I'm sure like they probably picked them up like by now.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So there'll be some that you could test drive at some point. It'll probably take a few more months before they get there.
I don't think they'll let you test drive them.
Oh yeah, why not?
Well, they'll probably hold the speed back.
Maybe, but they will certainly let people test drive them.
I would test drive one.
When I went to test the S, I could never get a performance model. I always got something like not even a dual, just something slow, like even when you just get a loaner.
Like mine?
They haven't made non-dual Model S since like 2016.
But just the basic model kind of thing, like I don't know, but okay, I mean if they do, great, but it'd be good to take that to the racetrack.
I don't think they'll let you do that though.
No, there's no way.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments?
So the Tesla loaners are now all locked into chill mode because people were doing exactly that.
Okay.
They're also racing them on the street.
Actually, that's not true. That's only true for the performance cars. The standard range cars are not in chill mode because I've gotten them a couple times and they don't put those in chill mode because they're a lot slower anyway. But the performance
I've
cars,
always
like
had them in chill mode.
So it's all the same thing then. A chill mode performance is no faster than a regular.
no, the standard car is actually faster than chill, but it's much slower than what we're used to, Lawrence.
Well,
Every
yeah.
time I've had an S or an X, it was always in chill mode.
No, I'm talking Model 3 standard. They don't.
Oh
they didn't
yeah, no,
bother
not the
putting
Model
those in
3. I'm
chill.
talking about the S, the fast ones.
Oh well, yeah, it's too bad. Too many cars were wrecked by bad drivers.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Lawrence, I don't know if you saw Phil's comment there, but that might be true. They heard about you, so they don't want to let you try it.
I see it. Because I'm actually I'm gonna go there in a few days to the
Oh, yeah?
Fairhaven location,
Okay.
yeah. But I
Well,
don't think there'll be anything over there.
I'd be surprised if they had any more because they certainly they're way backlogged, right? Same with Model X's. They've started producing the Model X again now, and it's going to be months before they're done with the backlog.
Well, maybe the guys there will have taken some pictures and have something to show or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but there's pictures available already, right? So
Well, yeah, I mean,
There's
but
videos online.
yeah, I mean, I've seen it. I've seen videos, all that thing. But to see
Mm.
pictures like at that location
yeah.
shows it really was there, kind of thing, and all that. Not that I don't believe it or anything, but it's just I don't know, just something.
Okay, the
Something for a little
Imperium
bit of
has been
optimism.
Sorry, the Imperium has been added.
to the buyer's guide.
Great. Terry, you had a question?
Yeah, I just didn't hear anyone talk about the changes in Tesla this last month or so, with the headquarters moving to Texas, the Texas production coming up this fall, and Berlin coming up right about now. They're starting production. And did I miss that?
Well, we didn't talk about it. I think Mike thought there was already enough Tesla news as it is.
Yeah, and
But-
like where their headquarters, like it doesn't really apply to. It doesn't matter where their headquarters is, right?
Yeah.
Does it?
Now that being said, Terry, if you're interested in that, I'm hearing a bit of echo there. So yes, they are. They expect to start low volume production in both Austin and Berlin within the next few months. They don't expect to deliver vehicles to customers before the first quarter, but they are trying to get that started. In Berlin, they've had a few little hiccups with permits and all that again, and public consultations in regards to that. But if you saw there were a bunch of videos that showed the county fair that they had, or country fair that they had, and those videos actually show the interior of the plant quite a bit, and you could see that they've done a lot of work. They're essentially almost ready for production as it is. So it shouldn't be very long until they're able to do that. Okay, that's the status, and they're going to be doing Model Y in both locations at first.
Yeah, I just thought it was just a significant 2 major factories coming online this fall, winter.
Yeah. Naturally,
When they come
Tesla is
online, it'll be news for sure.
Yeah, so Tesla is on track to, I saw an estimate the other day to produce somewhere around 950,000 vehicles this year. That's almost double what they did last year. And their actual factory capacity with the 2 factories they have is somewhere around 1.3 million per year. And the 2 new factories are going to add quite a bit of capacity on top of that. So it's conceivable that they would get within spitting distance of 2 million next year. So they're growing super rapidly.
Yeah.
So, which explains also why the price has gone up so much in the last little while. I'm sure that's part of it. Okay.
2 million vehicles a year is roughly Mazda sized as a company.
Yep, and they're saying that they're going to be at 20 million by 2030. Now, 20 million is the equivalent of what, Volkswagen and Toyota,
Something
right?
like that, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if they'll get there, but that is certainly ambitious. And given the demand they have right now, they themselves have said that they're surprised by how strong the demand is. Okay, if you've listened to the earnings call, they've said that they're surprised, and that probably also explains why they increased the price of the Model Y by 4 or 5K a couple of days ago.
4,000,
So
yep.
yeah, so it's becoming expensive now to buy a Model Y. But they have so much demand, they just, I can't blame them. If they can make a bit more cash, that'll help them going forward.
And it's
Model 3
the
prices stayed the same.
has the chip issue been severe for them, or just a glitch, a minor glitch?
So let's go back to why the chip shortage is there. So what happened is that in 2020, the car market crashed essentially. Okay, so sales dropped by about 30% globally. So what happened is most manufacturers, they cut their orders for chips. Okay, excuse me. Meanwhile, Tesla was planning on increasing production dramatically, so they increased their order of chips. Okay, so of course I don't have the insider knowledge about what's been happening and all that, but my reading of it is that Tesla was able to get not quite as many chips as they would have liked to have, because they did say that if they had more chips, they would have been able to produce more vehicles and more storage units, actually, because they use the same chips in storage as they do in vehicles. But they're also battery constrained, by the way, too, right? But given that they were asking for higher volumes, they probably got the volumes that they were expecting, or something close to it. And the other companies had to upsize their orders, and the manufacturers just hadn't expected to sell that many chips, right? So all of a sudden there was a large surge in demand, and most of the car manufacturers who had underestimated how many chips they needed were stuck with a chip shortage, right?
Well, also 2 of the 3 global fabs burnt down in that
Mhm.
time period. So the problem was that the supply of chips became constrained because of the 2 factories going offline of 3 in the world. And then that happened simultaneously with the automakers being like, yeah, we don't need that many chips.
Mhm.
And so anybody that had orders for chips already or was increasing orders got dibs on whatever was being produced. And now that the other automakers are like, oh, well, actually, we need those chips, the
Mhm.
fabs are like, sorry, we don't have any because you
Yeah.
guys said you didn't want any, and now we don't have the capacity to meet your demand anyway. So
Yeah,
that's
but
kind of, yeah.
yeah, there's another dimension to this as well, and that is that Tesla went and changed whichever chips they were using, where there was a big supply of alternate chips. What it means, they had to go rewrite their software, which they did in some sort of record time, and managed to avoid a bigger production glitch than their competitors.
Yeah, and actually, their competitors probably can't do that because they don't have anywhere near the agility that Tesla has. So that's one of the reasons that, not that I want to give stock advice here. That's not stock advice at all I'm giving here, caveat, okay? But one of the reasons I'm bullish on Tesla, even though the price went up considerably in the last month or so, is that they're developing a culture of being very agile and improving things very, very fast. One of the things that I saw yesterday is that it's 27 production changes per, what is it, per whatever period it was, whereas a typical manufacturer will do something like 7 production changes per year. And I think they do 27 per month or something like this. It's a number of some sort that's phenomenal. So When will Tesla start using the bigger batteries on the Y? So there's been some discussion about that. It's not clear what they will be doing there. If it's not clear that they have enough production to start using the bigger batteries from the outset.
So when I was researching the news, the rumors are saying that Tesla will be switching for the standard range plus model on the Model 3. They'll be switching to lithium iron phosphate batteries because they're cheaper. That's globally. They're already using them in China, but they'll be using them in North America as well. And that when the Tesla Gigafactory comes up online producing Model Ys, those will be in the new cells, apparently.
Which Gigafactory, though? Which Gigafactory? Texas.
When Giga Texas comes online, it'll start by producing Model Ys, apparently with the 4870 or whatever the battery cell size is.
So in the country fair that they had, they showed cutouts of the car, the Model Y, and they showed one with the 2170s or whatever they are, and one with the larger cells. So it, I think they're trying to hedge their bets because they're not sure when the larger cells will be ready. So I don't know if you saw also Panasonic has shown some of the larger cells that they've been producing. So there should be more supply coming online soon. Okay. Any other questions?
So the answer is we don't know, Marcel.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, they don't share all their secrets with us yet. Okay. So upcoming events. So as usual, we have the green drinks coming up in November. And it'll be the founder of Demand Renewables talking about solar and going through what does it take to get solar in your home. Okay, so it should be an interesting presentation. Note that for December, it will be us presenting. So we'll be talking about various things, redoing essentially the presentations that we do on a regular basis, talking about various models available, charging, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so and actually, it's next week. Okay, and just because I was thinking that we needed to get back to Nick on that, but it's only next week we need to get back to him on that, right, Mike? So anyway, green drinks this month, and next month should be even more interesting. Probably not for you guys because you probably know everything we're going to say. Anyways, other upcoming events. So I'm doing a presentation for the Unitarian Church on EV Myth on Wednesday. So they want me to talk about the environmental impact of EVs in particular. So it should be an interesting presentation. We have our next monthly meeting on the 29th. Then, like I said earlier, we have the green drinks presentation that we'll be doing on December 9th. I reached out to the producer of the Ottawa Gatineau International Auto Show, and he hasn't yet decided whether there'll be a show next year or not. He's still looking at making sure there's enough dealers and manufacturers participating for it to be worthwhile. But he's very interested in working with us at that show to see what we could do with him to promote EVs. So I'm sure he's going to want to have some Teslas, which we could provide, right? And in return, we're going to be sure to extract some favors. Okay, so stay tuned on that. I'm hoping we have the show. I'm hoping also that it's all, there should be no restrictions by then, right? Does anybody look at what the Ford plan says and whether there'll be restrictions by then?
Yeah, by March we should be out of all restrictions. That's the goal.
By March, okay.
Assuming everything doesn't go pear-shaped, by March there should be no more restrictions.
Cool. So hopefully we'll be able to have the show as we have in the past. Great. Okay, is there any other events anybody's aware of that I might have missed?
Not events, but I wanted to bring people's attention to, I don't think we have a slide for this. Nicola and I have made an Instagram and a Twitter account for EVCO. So you guys, if you follow Twitter or Instagram, you can follow us at EVC Ottawa So EVC Ottawa for both accounts, it's the same name. And you can follow what EVCO does out in the world and maybe contribute to it if you come to our events. So
Yeah, I was
EVC
posting
Ottawa
to it
for
yesterday.
Twitter and Instagram.
I was posting
What's
to the
that?
Instagram on the stories yesterday,
Yeah,
and
I saw that.
yeah,
So there you go.
Cool.
We post as regularly as we can.
Cool.
Oh, also we have a store, right, on the website. Do you have a slide for that still, Remo, or no?
Yeah, no, I don't. But
Oh, and Phil on
you-
Facebook. Sorry, Phil on Facebook. We have I think it's the Electric Vehicle Group of Ottawa Gatineau, something like that. It's not officially EVCO, but I am one of the admins on that group, so we've sort of like taken it over a little bit. So you can join that, and we're all active on that as well. So just look for something electric vehicles, Ottawa Gatineau. and
Electric
you'll
Vehicle
find it.
Community of Ottawa Gatineau.
That's the one. Yeah. At one point, they wanted to use the EVCO logo, and I was like, no. You guys aren't actual EVCO. You can't use the logo. But I am one of the admins, so that helps. But yeah, we also do have a store on our website, evco.ca.
you want to bring it up?
Sure. On my computer. You want me to share my screen? Hang on.
Yeah.
Okay. Store.
I think I know what I'm going to buy Nicolas for Christmas. I'm hoping he's going to buy me the same thing.
It's this one. There we go. You guys seen this? Awesome. Okay. So this is our store. We have many products.
Okay.
Some people have actually requested I make shirts with different slogans. So these slogans are not all my doing. So you can't just blame me if they're cheesy. But yeah, if you guys have like a little thing you want to put on a shirt, I can design a shirt for you that has that little thing. Never Going Back to the Ice Age, I think, was one that somebody came up with. Self-driving car driving instructor is another one. That's a new addition to the store. We keep these prices as low as possible. They're basically, we're not making any money off this. These are as low as Teespring or whatever will let me put them. We're only making a couple of bucks. But they're cool little EVCO swag. We've got cups, coffee cups, and there's all kinds of different colors, not just the ones you see here. If you click on one, you can get all the sizes and all the colors and, be a revolutionary, for example. We have bags and all kinds of good stuff. So yeah, that's what that is.